glad you're all here for Mother's Day. You moms look great. Don't they look great? And my mama's here. Talking about a generational mother. What do you think that means? Think about generations. Things that are handed down from one to another. If you have your Bibles, turn to Exodus 2. We're going to do 1 to 10. The impact of a mother on her children. Don't you know that kids watch everything you do? Especially when they're little tykes, and they pick up words just like that. Have you ever said, I don't know where that child got that word from? Gotcha. At the most inopportune times, they will do something that will just make you want to slither onto the floor and hide underneath the department store rack. Sarah did that one time, I have to tell on her. Going down to Walmart aisle, she decides that a lady's backside was bigger than it should be. So she said, Mom, look at that lady's big butt. Really loud. And I took her little hand and I'm like, don't you say that. We were in the next aisle in a split second because I was like, we aren't going there. I was so embarrassed. She didn't think she had done anything wrong. You know how kids are. They just say whatever. So the impact a mother has on her children, I did not say that before. She wasn't repeating what I said, by the way. Having a baby, the mother's excited. They know the baby's coming. They have excitement, joy, and they also are a little bit afraid. I think we're going to China. Will it be a girl or a boy? Will he look like mom or dad? Will it be twins and you didn't know that? Will they be calm or rowdy? Will he have hair or be bald? I remember when Sarah was laying on the hospital bed and I was getting ready to go home, I was like, oh my, it's like the responsibility of being a mother hit me. Like, now what do I do? There's no instruction books. I said, wait, do you have a pamphlet? No. And when a second child comes along, you might as well pitch that first pamphlet out. It don't work for the second one. Am I right? Every mom-to-be has the excitement of questions of what will be. How will their child be? How will it be to be a parent? Because it's all new. I'm going to be talking about Jochebed. It's an odd name, but it's a mama in the Bible. And she had a famous son. In verse 1 and 2, about this time a man and woman from the tribe of Levi got married. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that he was a special baby and kept him hidden for 3 months. Now you're saying, why did she have to keep him hidden? Usually we're like showing our children off. Come on, look, ain't he cute? Is she adorable in her pink dress? You know, those kind of things. We're going to find out why she had to hide him. Hebrews 11:23 says, God had given them an unusual child, and they as parents were not afraid to disobey the king's command. Now we know in these times, the kings had all authority. Whatever they said, their decrees was how it was, or the penalty would be death. So, if she would not follow the king's orders, she would be on the chopping block. So why did she need faith? Point 1 says Jochebed needed faith. How many's needed faith a time or two in your life? Yeah. The responsibility of a mother is large. No instructions, you learn as you go. Mother wants everything to be perfect for their child. They will many times intervene to make that happen. Steer them back in the right path. When there's conflict or disappointment, the mother feels it in her own self and goes to bat for the child. In biblical times, the mothers were the same. They had these same characteristics. The miracle of motherhood and the love of a mother has never changed. Some say moms even have godly characteristics. They love beyond measure. Their child can do wrong decisions and make wrong things happen, and they still have love and grace for them. It sounds like God. The history in this time was the Israelites were slaves to the Egyptians. Pharaoh was fearful that there would be more of the Israelites because God was blessing them to have more children and larger families. So Pharaoh thought a big idea was to, get that stopped. So in Exodus 1:15, Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, gave this order to the Hebrew midwives. When you help the Hebrew women have their babies, as they give birth, watch as they deliver. If it's a boy, I want you to kill him. If it's a girl, let her live. When a king put down the decree, those midwives thought, we need to follow this or we're going to be on the chopping block next. But guess what? They believed in God and his provision, so they went against that. Exodus 1:17 says, because the midwives feared God and refused to obey the king's orders, they allowed the boys to live as well. And the reason they gave was they said that the Hebrew women were fast in delivering their children, that they delivered too fast. That was the excuse they gave. Midwives were put in place so the Israelites would not increase, but guess what happened? Moses should have been executed, baby boy Moses. But going against the king's command would have meant the death of Jochebed. It was not over. God was in charge. Sometimes when we think things are going one way and we can't see God's hand moving, he is working below there. He's already on the next step and knows what's going to happen. And we just have to trust and take one step out.
Amen.
In decision making, how do you make decisions? Do you make a list of a pro or a con? See which list is bigger? Weigh and divvy it out? That's usually how I do it. Or I, of course, pray, but making a list and seeing the weight of the thing sometimes helps you to see reality. It's on black and white so you can see what to do. Now, Jochebed did not do that. She did not have a paper and pen and write her pros and cons because she didn't need to. She was determined not to give her child up to death. So in decision making, she did not consider not having her son's life. It's a chance that a mama would take. A mother will give her life for her children. Verse 2 and 3 says, the woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that he was a special baby and kept him hidden for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a basket made of, I don't know how to say it, papyrus, reeds, and waterproofed it with tar and pitch so that it would be safe for him. She put the baby in the basket, laid it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile River. Do you think that was an easy thing for her to do? He was 3 months old. Maybe some of the crying was done, but he was starting to coo, make little baby noises. So he wasn't quiet, and that's why she had to get him out of the home, because there were times when she heard other ladies down the street crying because they had their babies lost. She didn't want that to happen to Moses. So she showed her motherly love once again and took a chance, trusted God, and let go of him so that he could be what he needed to be. So point 2, Jochebed trusted God. His parents hid Moses for 3 months, which would be a tough thing. Baby crying during the night, you don't know what's wrong, you fed him, you done the diaper thing, and you're like, now what? So you start rocking him. What a habit. Sarah got rocked almost every night because I started that habit. Crying slowed down. She could hear the mothers, and she had a dilemma on her hands. Now what do I do? She found herself in a tough situation. How many's been in a tough situation before? Sometimes your thoughts are all scrambled up. You can't figure out what you need to do. It's called life. How could she keep Moses safe and keep him alive with everything that was going on around them? A strategy was needed. If she kept him in the home, he would eventually be found, and they'd figure out the age where he should have been killed and probably would done him in. If she let him go, she would not know if he remained alive or even became an adult. What should she do? Point 3. Moses is seen floating down the Nile. When I think of releasing, if it was my child into the water, I would be like, maybe release him and run and go get him and bring him back in for a time or two. It would be very hard to release and walk away. Was she making the right decision? Was she protecting him or putting him in harm's way? All these things, I'm sure, were going through her mind. But yet she was raised to trust in God. So her worrying about her child, she had to place her trust in God if she wanted the plan to be as it should. You ever worried about your child? When she got croup or she was bullied at school? Made some wrong decisions? Got a high temperature that you couldn't get to come down? Left them at the church when you went to music practice and forgot you took them? I'm guilty. She never lets me forget that one. I usually didn't take her. I took her that night. Give me a break. And I left her and I went to do my errand after that, and I'm like, did I take Sarah along with me or not? So then I called her dad and I said, is Sarah with you? No, she went along with you. I'm like, ah. So somebody brought her home, but oh, that freaked me out. To leave your child somewhere. She was like 4 or 5 years old. I do it well when I do it. Verse 3 and 4. But when she could no longer hide him, she made the basket, placed him in, and put him in the Nile River. Next. The baby's sister then stood at a distance watching to see what would happen to him. Now I'm sure Mama did that. For her security, she put the sister behind the reed so she could watch little brother. So that maybe she could figure out who got him or something like that. I could see a Mama doing that. Ease your mind a little bit. Jochebed looked at him in the basket and had his sister watching over him from afar. It was a sacrifice that she had to do for the good of her son. There was another sacrifice in the Bible where a father thought he was going to have to kill his son. Do you remember? Yeah. Abraham and Isaac. It's a similar story there. But in both cases, the sons were taken care of. This action of her letting go of her son to protect him set in motion Moses' life within the Egyptian community and his eventual leading of the Israelites out of slavery. So you have to question, what if she wouldn't have done what she thought she should have? Would it still have happened? Because God knows all the steps that are coming up. We see one step. Take this one step. He don't say take 5 steps and you'll be there. Many times he makes you step. Have faith, grow more faith, take another step. This is what he does. He grows us as we take our steps. Point 4. Good news. God can provide an exception to every rule. How many knows God's rules are different than ours? We think we might have something figured out, and guess what? He has it figured out totally different. Verse 5 and 6. There are 3 miracles within this story. Miracle 1 was Moses was coincidentally found by the king's daughter. Soon, Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river, and her attendants walked along the riverbank. When the princess saw the basket among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it for her. She probably didn't have an idea that there was a baby in there, unless he was cooing and making little noises. What are the chances a Pharaoh's daughter would be the one to find Moses? Think about it. She wasn't the only one that bathed in the Nile. What if she wouldn't have been there at that same time? Because it was said that he was placed at the time they knew that she would be coming down to bathe. What if something came up in her schedule and she went and took a bath at a different time? Hey, it can happen. It's life. Verse 7 to 9. Then the baby's sister approached the princess. Should I go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? She said, yes, do, the princess replied. So the girl went and called the baby's mother. Miracle number 2. Jochebed was asked to nurse her own child. Now, I think that one's a hard one to think that's a coincidence. I mean, she had all those women around her. Certainly somebody might have been able to nurse. They could have used somebody right in there. But because the sister was placed where she needed to be, she intervened and said, you want me to go get, a nurse for him? Oh, yeah, go ahead. So then the mama could do that. And on top of that, it tells us that she is getting paid to nurse her own child. Now, come on, that's the number 3 miracle. Do you think that the princess noticed the preparation of the sister being placed there? I think she was just so excited about the baby that was smiling up at her that she didn't even give it a thought. Jochebed was even getting paid to mother her own son. Verse 9. Take this baby and nurse him for me. The princess told the baby's mother, I will pay you for your help. So the woman took her baby home and nursed him. How many's gotten paid to nurse your baby? I don't see no hands. It's not that we want the pay. It's just an unusual situation that she got paid. Many things could have went different in this situation. But as you can look at the story, you can see the steps that were laid out for them. What if the bath was at a different time? Pharaoh could have found out and went ahead and said he had to be killed. Many things could have went wrong. She could have not been able to nurse her son and maybe lost touch and not known where he ended up. God has a way of causing all the elements to fall into place at exactly the right time, even though things can hurt us in life and disappointments come and we have losses. He still has some more steps coming. We just have to continue believing and being faithful. So miracle 3, Moses was placed in the right Egyptian home. Wasn't just anyone's. Saving his life and positioning him for later ministry. How cool is that? Point 5. Jochebed passed her trust in God to her son. Jochebed was able to teach her son because she was able to nurse her son, even though she had been the one that put him down the Nile. God brought him back to her, and she got to teach him. These teachings were traditional, passed down from generation to generation to generation. She taught her son about God, passing traditional things down. Without the succession of the steps that we saw happen in this story, he would not have learned about the one true God. He would have been brought up in a different belief. Jochebed's decision to follow the faith of her ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, impacted her son, who later led Israel out of Egypt. God already knew that step of the plan. Moses and the family didn't. But Jochebed stepped out and did what she knew she needed to do. And that worked exactly to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. Looking in the future, although Moses was raised in an Egyptian home, he did not forsake his heritage of being Hebrew. He was called by God to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Signs were given to him by God because of his relationship with God. The staff became a snake. The water came from the rock. The parting of the Red Sea. Somebody explain that one to me. And then the 10 plagues, the burning bush that never burnt. So I'm speaking to the moms. We have an opportunity to impact our generation, just as Jochebed did. The first step is to become a Christian mom, and then pass it on to the next generation. What if Jochebed had not listened to God? What if she didn't set that example for him? I believe mothers are a special gift to us from God. Even maybe a little taste of God in our lives. We are placed here to impact our children and to carry on the gospel to them. To make sure they know about God. The grandchildren know about God. The great-grandchildren know about God. This is a heavy responsibility. Moms and dads both have that responsibility, but we're talking about mamas today. So just remember, when you do an action or a word or anything, your baby's looking right at you. They think that's the right way, so they're going to be doing that. Take your responsibility of being a generational mom seriously. Not to say you ain't going to ever make a mistake, but that's what you should strive for, to make sure they know the truth and the way. I'd like to have all the moms come forward. We're going to have a time of prayer for mamas. If you would, let me get to see how nice they are.